Hello everyone! We are in Kolomna, the city located 100 kilometers from Moscow. It is one of the oldest and most beautiful cities in Russia. So if you ever visiting the Moscow, I recommend making the trip to this city, because it is really a gem of Russian land. Stay with us and let's explore the city together.
Early in the morning, we appear on the territory of Kolomna's Kremlin. Before us is a part of an ancient Kremlin wall that have survived to this day, a testament to the centuries-old history of this place. Walking along the street, we found ourselves in the heart of the city of Cathedral Square, the historic center of the ancient Kremlin. Founded in the 14th century, the square acquired its modern appearance in the 18th century, having undergone many changes associated with renovation and reconstruction of buildings. Today we see an ensemble that harmoniously combines architectural styles from different eras. The Dormition Cathedral occupies the central place of the square, founded in the end of 14th century. Its majestic dome, directed upward, is the dominant feature of the entire architectural composition. On the left stands the Tikhvin Church, a later building founded at the end of the 18th century with a patronage of a local merchant. Its elegant facade contrasts with the monumental appearance of the Dormition Cathedral. The presence of the bell tower, erected in the later part of the 18th century, completes the architectural ensemble, creating a sense of harmony and unity. Dormition Cathedral, as well as all the buildings on the square, didn't avoid the destructive impact of the revolutionary events of 1917. Numerous restoration works carried out during the past 30 years have allowed it to restore its former grandeur, although the interior decoration and painting of the temples are largely reconstructions made by modern masters. On the square stands also the building of the former parochial school founded in 1865. After the 1917 revolution, it was handed over for secular school use and continues to be used as such to this day. Interestingly, today the school offers optional religion lessons. The youngest object of the square is the monument of the creator of Slavic writing, Kirill and Methodius. It was installed in 2007 and completes the architectural ensemble. Before the facade of Tikhvin Church stand memorial posters which commemorate new martyrs of the church. These people suffered from repressions of the Soviet authority in the period of religious persecution in the 20th century. Their fates are tragic pages of our history, clearly demonstrating the cruelty of the totalitarian regime and the price of faith for people who remained true to their convictions. Many of them were shot or died at labor camps, having gone through inhuman experiences. The Soviet authorities tried to destroy religion, seeing in it a threat to their own total force. Let us now examine the interior of the Dormition Cathedral. The current appearance of the interior, which reflects a classical style, was established at the end of the 18th century. Restoration efforts for the Dormition Cathedral started only in the 1990s, following its official return to the church. As previously noted, the church's interior sustained significant damage during the Soviet period. However, the iconostasis remained intact and well preserved, although it too necessitated restoration. Additionally, while in a regrettable condition, some wall paintings survived. Unfortunately, many icons were lost and had to be replaced with new creations by contemporary artists. I have discussed how property was plundered following the 1917 revolution in my video titled "Who Destroyed the Earl's Castle?". Services are conducted daily within the temple, which is open to visitors. We happened to attend one such service. On the right of the cathedral is a functioning female monastery. It was established in the 19th century and closed after the 1917 revolution, and the people were evicted. However, the monastery was preserved because Soviet authorities established a police station and later a hospital there. In 1985, the property was returned to the church. On the left we can see apartments where nuns reside. On the right is the Trinity Church, built in 1705 in the Moscow Baroque style. During the summer months, the monastery is adorned with beautiful flowers planted by the nuns, adding to the architectural splendor. Within the monastery grounds, there is also a wooden chapel, a modern structure built in 2001. Currently, more than 80 nuns reside in the monastery, originating from various former Soviet republics. An Orthodox medical center operates within the monastery, staffed by nuns who are all trained medical professionals. There is a small hotel for pilgrims, and guided tours are available. The monastery has an animal lovers club, where nuns breed rare dog breeds. They also have purebred horses in the monastery courtyard. Additionally, the nuns produce handicraft and contribute to the church choir. The nuns have developed various construction skills and have partially restored the monastery through their efforts. Furthermore, the monastery operates an orphanage. Notably, the nuns have established an orchard adhering to the principle of producing their own sustenance. To ensure the proper maintenance of the garden, several nuns have obtained agricultural education at a college and continue to pursue education at a university. They have amassed a diverse collection of fruit trees, including apple, pear, apricot, cherry, cherry plum, grape, gooseberry, and more. We leave the cathedral square and head towards the most touristic street of the Kolomna Kremlin, Lozhechnikov Street. Around the corner is its end, and we will move from the end to the beginning. As it is early morning, we will be practically alone and will be able to examine all its beauty in detail. On the right is house number 18, the estate of the tannery merchants Petrovs, built in the third quarter of the 19th century. The architecture of the one-story mine house with mezzanines and a high-vaulted semi-basement belonged to the transitional period from classicism to eclecticism. We keep walking and come to a 19th century church. It's a part of another monastery for women. It was used as a vegetable store during the Soviet era. I found an old photo from that time and you can see it here. Restoration of the church only began in 2005, so what we see now is fairly new. The entrance to the monastery grounds is through that arch. There are some interesting sights down the alleyways too. The quaint little square is lined with hedges and antique-looking bits and pieces. There's a gramophone museum in the building on the right. One of them even exposes outside as an advert. There are flowers in the window boxes brightening the place up, just like everywhere else in the Kremlin. And here in the Kremlin is a square that's just full of flowers. Let's take a look at the exterior of the Kremlin. The first fortress, built here in the 12th century, was made of wood. However, it was captured and burned down by Mongol forces in the 13th century. As a result, new stone walls with 11 towers were built in the 16th century, but only 7 of them remain today. Italian masons were brought in to construct the Kremlin, which took 6 years to complete. The city was enclosed by walls that were 2 kilometers long, over 3 meters thick, and about 20 meters high. The fortress was finally completed on August 15, 1531. Despite being besieged numerous times, the stone Kremlin has never been breached. Over time, the wall's military significance diminished, and some of them were dismantled. Their stone bricks were used to construct private homes, and somewhere the top layer of house finishing has been removed, revealing the Kremlin's brickwork beneath. I'd like to mention an important figure associated with the city. From the 13th to the 15th century, Russian lands were under the rule of the Mongol Empire. During this time, Prince Dmitry Donskoy, who was entrusted with governing this region, rallied other princes to join forces and ultimately defeated the Mongol army in 1380. Historians believe that this event marked the beginning of a gradual loosening of dependence of the Mongol Empire. However, it wasn't until 100 years later, in 1480, that Russia gained complete independence. Nevertheless, Prince Dmitry Donskoy played a pivotal role in this momentous victory, and this monument stands as a testament to his leadership and the glory it brought to the Russian people. One of survived gates is Pyatnitsky Gate. This is a passage tower, and there were 4 of them in total. Now they sell souvenirs from stalls near it, and there is a strange sculpture here. In addition, we still have a planned tour of the fortress wall. We'll stroll along the corridor and explore the tower. To join the tour, you'll need to purchase a ticket in advance on the Kremlin's official website or at the ticket office. Since there are many tourists and the interior space is limited, it's a common practice to form groups of tourists at specific times. There are only a few groups per day. Our group is ready to start the excursion, and we head inside the tower. The interior space is decorated in an ancient style, and we are immediately immersed in an atmosphere of history. We ascend the winding staircase within the tower's embrace. Emerging into a chamber, we are greeted by a collection of weapons from a bygone era. The guide invites us to handle these marvels, meticulously crafted to mirror their ancient counterparts. While the blades remain dulled for safety, he asked us to be cautious. To turn out to be on the wall, we should climb up a steep stone staircase. Thick wall and narrow embrasures reliably protected the soldiers from enemy weapons. The big embrasures intended for cannons and narrow for guns. Here on the wall is a vantage point to control over the esplanade before the fortress. Firearms are displayed in the loopholes on the upper tier of the tower. Guides and attendants are dressed in 16th century clothing. Displayed along the passage weapons are from various historical periods. Ballista looks like a giant crossbow that is mounted on a stand. Before it can be fired, it must be loaded and aimed. This requires a lot of practice and training. The main average range is from about 30 meters to 100 meters. Bombard or mortar. Back in the days there were no standard rules for the size of cannons, so soldiers would stuff whatever they could into the cannon's barrel. This mortar-like cannon could pierce a knight's armor from up to 30 meters away and decimate enemy forces from close range. As mentioned before, from the 13th to the 15th centuries, Russian land were under the pressure of the Mongolian Empire. Mongolian authorities had the right to approve or disapprove of Russian princes ruling over the Russian land. Russian princes had to pay tribute and regularly visit the Mongol Empire with reports. Mongolian authorities also had the right to judge disputes between Russian princes. From time to time, Mongolian forces seized Russian cities, burning them and taking people as slaves. Therefore, this fortress was built to be so strong that it was never captured, thus reliably defending the way to Moscow. We found ourselves in another room where guns for aim-at shooting, arquebuses, were on display. The attendant showed us how to load this large gun. Another room in the tower is Marina Mniszek's room. She was the daughter of a Polish military leader. It should be noted that Russia and Poland had been fighting prior to that time, and the Poles were interested in gaining influence over Russian lands. Therefore, Marina was married to the impostor Tsar False Dmitry, a man who pretended to be the murdered son of Tsar Ivan the Terrible. He seized power and stayed in power as a ruler for 1 year. After the overthrow and death of False Dmitry, Marina Mniszek had the opportunity to return to Poland, but she made another attempt to gain power. Ultimately, she became a prisoner in this tower and died here. Here are displayed the means of production of craftsman. Our excursion on the walls is coming to an end, and now we are going down, and the last point in our adventure is the torture room. I haven't entered it because this room is too cramped, and I saw it from a distance. Kolomna is not just a city steeped in history, but also a thriving industrial center. Its industrialization took off in the late 19th century, when it was connected to Moscow by rail. This connection sparked the launch of locomotive production in the city. In 1869, the local factory produced its first cargo locomotive, one of the first locomotives built in Russia. As a testament to this achievement, an old locomobile stands in the town square. These machines were used to power other mechanisms. A locomobile would be brought to a location, a fire would be lit under its boiler, and the resulting steam would spin the upper wheel. This wheel could then transmit motion to other machinery.
This is the first steam machine produced in this city.
Within the ground of an old merchant Smyrna, the atmosphere of the 19th century has been recreated. The courtyard was renowned for its blacksmith, who shoot horses from Kolomna until 1980. Today you can visit an open-air museum showcasing a groom's workplace. Here you will find tools of the blacksmith and an abundance of flowers. A unique art installation featuring a flower-adorned cart adds to the floral ambience of the courtyard. And here are the horses themselves. You can ride in a carriage quite inexpensively for about $4. Before leave the Kremlin, let's throw a look on Pyatnitskaya Tower. At the top rises a small tower, in the stone arch of which used to hang an alarm bell, which the sentry would strike when the city was in danger, be it an invasion of enemies or a fire. We are going to pass through the gate and go out of the Kremlin and stroll along the bank of the river. The embankment of Moscow River is a popular place for recreation for both locals and tourists, and is also a great place for open-air events. In 2020 the embankment was renovated and now features an observation deck with lighting and wooden paths leading down to the water, as well as benches and flower beds. There is also a cafe there. Another interesting feature is the floating pedestrian bridge across the Moscow River to the neighboring village. In winter it is stationary and doesn't open, but when the river is not frozen, it operates as intended. The pontoons move to the sides and the passage opens up for ships. The bridge is suitable for cars, but residents voted to pedestrianize it in order to reduce traffic near the historical center. Just off the bridge around the Kremlin is Zaitsev Street, where there are many souvenir shops. There is also a confectionery, an old-fashioned shop where you can buy sweets, and a perfume shop where you can buy locally crafted soap. Meanwhile, the summer evening is gaining strength and creating romantic pictures that amazingly connect the past and the present. Epochs intertwine, taking us into dreams. The belfry of John the Evangelist Church on the Square of Two Revolutions has 5 tiers and is 67 meters high. It was built in the 19th century and is open for tourists. There are observation decks on each tier, and you can even ring the bells. I plan to talk about our visit to it in the next video about the city of Kolomna. As the sunset dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the ancient city of Kolomna, our day-long adventure drew to a close. From the serene sunrise at the 16th century Kremlin walls to the bustling sunset over the river, we had experienced the charm of history of this captivating Russian gem. As we bid farewell to the hospitable locals, we left with cherished memories and a longing to return to explore further the hidden treasures of Kolomna.